Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 322. Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a good weekend. A lot went on this weekend. I had wanted to get back into talking about some domestic politics and what's going on with the Democratic Party, pick up where I left off in the last podcast, but not going to be able to do that. We're going to, of course, get into what happened over the weekend, some foreign policy, what happened with the strikes on Iran over the weekend. And I knew that we were probably going to have to cover this. I didn't know how long it was going to take. I said in the last podcast that wanted to see how things played out. I hope cooler heads prevail. But on Friday, that was when Trump had, he had put out the message that we're going to give it 2 more weeks and we're going to try to negotiate a peaceful solution to this with Iran, going to give them 2 more weeks to come to the table. And I guess 24 hours after that, on Saturday evening, Trump is the one who alerts the world that the mission had just happened and it was over and that the planes were out of Iranian airspace. And then everyone is freaking out. World War III. World War III. And people being completely hyperbolic. There's a lot of people who made complete fools of themselves over the past couple of days. And so we're going to get into talking about that. But I want to start by talking about this nickname that the Democratic Party and Democrats have given Trump, and they have been going around, using the nickname Taco to shame him. And Taco is an acronym that means Trump always chickens out. That Trump is a chicken. And there were tons of memes going around, taco memes, saying Trump is a chicken, Trump is a chicken. So just take that into consideration as we get into today's podcast, is that the left wanted you to view that was something that they were using to attack Trump politically, using this nickname Taco, which means Trump always chickens out. All right. So like I was saying in the last podcast on Friday, Trump had given Iran 2 weeks, 2 final weeks to come to the table to try to negotiate a peaceful solution to this before the United States, took other measures. And the other measures is what happened on Saturday night. But you'll see the headline here in this article. Iran rejects U.S. talks after Trump gives 2-week deadline to allow for more negotiations. Iran said, no, we don't need 2 weeks. The answer is no more negotiations, no more coming to the table. They were putting Trump off, and they've been putting Trump off for months now. This is something that didn't just come out of nowhere. Trump has been trying to negotiate this agreement with Iran for months. This article, look at the headline. Iran says, despite U.S. demands, it will never stop enriching uranium. This is May 21st. This is a month ago. Read a little bit of this article. Iran's top diplomat insisted Wednesday that Tehran will never stop enriching uranium, reinforcing the Islamic Republic's hard line ahead for new round of indirect talks with the United States over fast advancing nuclear program. The nuclear program is advancing rapidly. They were at 30% enrichment, according to the IAEA, 30% enrichment in February, 4 months ago. They're at 60% enrichment now. So this article in PBS News, the first paragraph, fast advancing nuclear program, and they said that they will never stop enriching uranium. So once you get to 90%, you're at weapons grade over 90%. They're a rapidly, fast advancing nuclear program. Go from 30% to 60% in 4 months. Once you get to 90%, you have weapons grade. And they said they will never stop enriching uranium. This was a month ago, okay? France 24. This was a week after that. This is May 5th, 5 days after the article we just read. Iran, not Iran. People say Iran. It's not Iran. It's Iran. Iran rejects push to suspend uranium enrichment to reach a U.S. deal. So they reject the push to suspend the enrichment. Trump's like, look, you guys need to suspend this enriching uranium. We know you don't have a bomb. We know you don't have a weapons program, but just the enriching of the uranium at the rate that you're enriching it, you guys need to slow down. Iran says, no, we're not going to slow down. We're going to keep enriching, and we're not interested in making a deal. This is a month ago. Read a little bit of this. The issue has come to focus in recent weeks with Iran staunchly defending its right to enrich uranium as part of what it says is a civilian nuclear program, while the United States wants it to stop. The United States says, stop with the enrichment. You guys have gone from 30% to 60% in 4 months. Stop with the enrichment. This isn't about a nuclear weapon, because once they get to 90%, getting a weapon at that point is not that difficult. So stop the enrichment is what the United States wants. The negotiations, which began in April, they started in April. It started over the weekend. Trump has been trying to negotiate with them going back to April. The highest level contact the highest level contact between the two sides since the United States quit the landmark 2015 the Obama deal, according to U.S. President in his first term. Let's see. There was some part of this that I wanted to. Oh, this part right here. On Monday, Iran ruled out suspending its nuclear enrichment. And quote, this information is a figment of the imagination and totally false, said Foreign Ministry spokesman. I don't know, can't pronounce that name. Asked about the possibility during a press briefing in Tehran. That this is so this spokesperson said this information is a figment of the imagination and totally false. This is the paragraph I wanted to get to right here. Iran insists it has the right to a civilian nuclear program. So they're telling you that we need 60% enrichment of uranium for our civilian nuclear program, including for energy, and considers the U.S. demand a red line that violates the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which it is a signatory. So they said that they needed for medical and energy needs, and that's why they need uranium enriched to 60%, and that they will never stop and keep enriching. So, I mean, if they're 60%, they're going to keep enriching. I mean, people were sharing this quote, and it went viral. And this is not an actual. This is not true. They're and we're crediting this comment from that a Iranian official said this to a Reuters reporter, is where they said this came from. And then everyone started sharing it, but it's not true. There's no evidence that Iran said this. This is a lot of disinformation. And there was a lot of disinformation and is a lot of disinformation going on out there. But this was shared widely, and you need to know that this is not a true statement that was made by the Iranian regime. But Iran says that if the choice is between halting uranium enrichment and going to war, we choose war. Iran never said that. But they did say that they're going to continue enriching no matter what. Iran says that it will never stop enriching. And we're going to continue enriching because we have a right to enrich for peaceful purposes. And then people were sharing this. Oh, man. Let's see if I can find that again. I had it set up. This is from the movie The Dictator.
We are 2 months away from enriching weapons-grade uranium to be used for peaceful purposes. It will be used only for medical research and clean energy. It will, and will certainly never be used to attack oh boy.
So that's from the movie The Dictator. But yeah, I mean, are you going to believe these guys? Are you going to believe the Ayatollah and the Mullahs when they say that they need uranium for peaceful protesters purposes and for energy and healthcare, and they're enriching it, as rapidly as they're doing, and they're up to 60%? You're going to believe them? That's for peaceful protest? It's a comedy, just like this movie was a comedy. So on Saturday night, like I said, Trump put out this message that we've just completed a very successful attack on these nuclear facilities. And this was the very first knowledge that anyone had of this attack. Everyone is applauding how the Pentagon and the Trump administration kept this secret, and everyone is applauding the skill and the precision of this attack. And not everyone, not everyone. A lot of people are applauding the skill and the precision of this attack. I don't know what's going on with me in pronouncing words today. The skill and precision of this attack. Not everyone is applauding it. There are a lot of people that came out again with the World War III, World War III, and calling Trump Bush. And again, there were factions in the MAGA side, on the Republican side, that I'm done with Trump, that Trump has destroyed MAGA. He's taking us to war with Iran for Israel, was the narrative. World War III. And these are some of the memes. I showed this one to you last week of them morphing Trump's face with Bush and trying to relate this to Bush and Iraq, which there's no parallels. People who are trying to make these parallels, they're either pushing disinformation to divide MAGA, and there's a lot of that going on, or they are completely ignorant and they don't know what happened in 2003. They don't know that Bush was warned before 9/11 that Al-Qaeda was in the country and they were preparing to hijack planes, and that he allowed them to hijack planes. And then he used 9/11 to sell the war in Iraq and lied to us and told us that Saddam Hussein had a nuclear program when he didn't have a nuclear program, and lied to us and tried to make a connection between Saddam and Al-Qaeda when there was no connection between Saddam and Al-Qaeda. And they created false intelligence and outed CIA agents' husbands who were refuting their intelligence, who went to Niger and found that Saddam was not really buying yellow cake uranium from Niger and all of that. You mean there is no parallels here to what Trump did over the weekend and Bush, but these people are idiots. And again, a lot of them are intentionally trying to divide MAGA. But these are some of the memes. Bush light, Trump. This one is funny because Trump tells that story about how the frog carries the scorpion over the river, and the scorpion stings him, and they both drown. And They got Netanyahu as the scorpion and Trump's the frog. Some cute memes going on here. Is Trump's taking us to war for Israel. This is one of my favorites. This is Netanyahu throwing the Pokemon Pikachu. And it's Pikachu Trump. That's one of my favorites. But these people are idiots. And again, this goes back to the study that I was talking about in the last two podcasts, 2003 study that finds that there is more diversity of thought on the political right than the political left. Although they pride themselves on open-mindedness, liberal thinking actually coalesces around a very narrow set of opinions, whereas the right diverges widely. The right has more diversity, and it's easier to drive a wedge when you have more diversity of thought and you have more different viewpoints, and it's a bigger tent. It's harder to drive a wedge over here on the left wing because they're more cultish. They have more of the same mindset. They follow lockstep. That's why, again, I was explaining in the last podcast that in 2003 and through the Bush administration, all the liberals were against the war. All the Democrats were against the war until Obama came in and Obama started doing the war, and then war's good. So you see, once the black guys started doing the war, then the war is good. And you saw that over the weekend with the Democrats and their reaction to what Trump did over the weekend. Trump didn't do anything that Obama didn't do. But everyone's saying that, it's unconstitutional. He violated the War Powers Act. Well, what about the War Powers Act when Obama? But see, they have the very narrow mindset. They coalesce around people. They don't have any principles that they coalesce around. It's about protecting the cult. So you have more divergence of ideas on the right, and it's easier to drive a wedge through the right here. And that's what I believe a lot of this going on, trying to compare Trump to Bush and saying that he's letting Israel take us into World War III, which is completely ridiculous. A lot of that is ignorance, and a lot of that is people intentionally trying to drive a wedge through the MAGA movement. But again, so the Democrats, these were their reactions to what Trump did over the weekend. This is AOC. The president's disastrous decision to bomb Iran without authorization is a grave violation of the Constitution and congressional war powers. What did you guys say when Obama did it? What did you guys say when Obama did it? When he bombed Libya without congressional authorization? Was that a violation of constitutional and congressional war powers? He has impulsive. This has been going on since April for a long time. He's been trying to get them to the table. He has impulsively risked launching a war that may ensure ensnare us for generations. It is absolutely and clearly grounds for impeachment. AOC, it's ground for impeachment when Trump does it. When Obama does it, he's celebrated. This is Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine, listen to what Tim Kaine says.
The U.S. should be at war with Iran. It's unconstitutional for a president to initiate a war like this without Congress. Every member of Congress needs to vote on this.
So it's unconstitutional for a president to initiate a war like this without Congress. What about Obama? What about your running mate? Tim Kaine was Hillary Clinton's vice presidential candidate or running mate when she ran in 2016. He ran with Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State under the Obama administration when he invaded Libya and killed Gaddafi without congressional authorization. What about that, Tim Kaine? And then here's your running mate right here. Here's Hillary Clinton. Listen to what Hillary Clinton says in that election where you ran with her as her running mate.
And I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran.
I want the Iranians to know that if I am the president, we will attack Iran. That's your running mate, Tim Kaine. Saying it's unconstitutional that Trump did this, that he attacked Iran. You're running with someone on the ticket who said that they're going to attack Iran.
And I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran. Whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear weapons program in the next 10 years, during which they might foolishly consider launching an attack on Israel, we would be able to totally obliterate them. That's a terrible thing to say, but those people who run Iran need to understand that, because that perhaps will deter them from doing something that would be reckless, foolish, and tragic.
Mm-hmm. Hillary Clinton, that's Tim Kaine. You ran with her, Tim Kaine. He said it's unconstitutional now that Trump did it. People made fools of themselves. Here's Ro Khanna. Trump struck Iran without any authorization from Congress. We need to immediately return to D.C. and vote on Thomas Massie, because he's working with Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie was one of the only Republicans that came out criticizing Trump's actions, agreeing with Ro Khanna and the Democrats that it violated the Constitution, which it doesn't. We need to immediately return to D.C. to vote on Thomas Massie and my war powers resolution to prevent America from being dragged into another endless Middle East war. So it's wasn't authorized by Congress, and we need to pass more war powers resolution, more war powers legislation to prevent what Trump is doing. And he's working again with Massie, and Thomas Massie put this out. It's not constitutional, And again, they were on Face the Nation over the weekend. They're working together on new war powers resolution. But what about Obama? What about the long-legged Mac Daddy? All these Democrats and all of them, they all came out with statements that this is unconstitutional, violates the war powers for Donald Trump to execute this targeted strike over a 24-hour period, violates the war powers. And none of these Democrats that are complaining about Trump and his actions being unconstitutional, they didn't say anything about Obama when he was doing it. I was explaining in the last podcast that how Trump, that he went directly at the Bush administration and the Bush policy in 2016 when he ran. And that is what propelled him into getting the nomination and then winning the presidency. And it all started with this debate in South Carolina. And, Obama, this guy, he picked up from where Bush left off with the global war on terrorism. So Obama ran on being a peace candidate, just like Trump. He ran on being a peace candidate, and that's how they're trying to drive the wedge through the MAGA movement, saying that he ran on being a peace candidate and he's dropping bombs in Iran. Well, Obama ran on being a peace candidate. He ran and said that he was going to stop the war in Afghanistan. He sent more troops to Afghanistan. He said that he was going to stop the war in Iraq, which they did wind down the war in Iraq, but he allowed the Sunni to go into Syria and fight with the Free Syrian Army. And then he armed the Free Syrian Army that was fighting against Assad. And ISIS came out of the Free Syrian Army and came back into Iraq and took over Mosul and took over Iraq on his watch. He dropped bombs in Libya and let them take out Gaddafi in Libya without congressional authorization. Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia. I mean, these guys didn't say anything about Obama, the long-legged Mac Daddy, when he was doing it. And now many on the left are saying that, see, you MAGA guys, you got sold out by Trump. He said that he was the peace guy and you guys believed him, and now he's starting new wars, World War III. Well, I mean, which is it? Is he Taco or is he starting new wars? Which is it? But they have no consistency. They have no consistency. They're just trying to drive the wedge in between the MAGA movement. They have no consistency at all. This is a clip of Obama that started going viral, announcing all of his targeted strikes. Nobody said that he's starting World War III when he's announcing all these targeted strikes and these military actions.
Today I authorized 2 operations in Iraq. Targeted airstrikes to protect our American personnel.
Targeted airstrikes.
Last night, on my orders, America's armed forces began strikes against ISIL targets in Syria. Today, at my direction, the United States launched a targeted operation against that compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan.
The mission to get bin Laden in Abbottabad, Pakistan is absolutely no different than what Donald Trump did over the weekend. Pakistan didn't know about the mission. We flew into Pakistan without any authorization from the Pakistani government. We executed a military action in Pakistan on their soil and then flew out. That's exactly what Donald Trump did over the weekend. Flew into Iran, executed a military mission, and then flew out. Same thing that long-legged Mac Daddy did. And he was celebrated. And now everyone's saying, oh, it's unconstitutional because Trump did it. These people have no credibility. They're fools.
Today I authorized 2 operations in Iraq. Targeted airstrikes to protect our American personnel. Last night, on my orders, America's armed forces began strikes against ISIL targets in Syria. Today, at my direction, the United States launched a targeted operation against that compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan.
They did what?
Today, I authorized the armed forces of the United States to begin a limited military action in Libya.
So Obama did all of this, and no one on the left, and I'm not going to say no one, there were 2 or 3 voices. One you're going to hear from here in a moment that did on the left, a Democrat who's not in Congress anymore, ironically, as soon as he protested against Obama and criticized Obama's military action, he didn't stay in Congress for very long. We'll talk about that individual here in a moment, but there were maybe 2 or 3 Democrats that criticized Obama's actions, and Dennis Kucinich, who we're going to listen to here in a moment, is one of them. But you could count on one hand the number of Democrats that criticized Obama for his military action. This is Obama in the debate in 2012 with Mitt Romney. Take a listen.
Because a nuclear Iran is a threat to our national security, and it's a threat to Israel's national security. We cannot afford to have a nuclear arms race in the most volatile region of the world. Iran's a state sponsor of terrorism. And for them to be able to provide nuclear technology to non-state actors, that's unacceptable.
That's very important what he says here. It's not even about them making a nuclear bomb and putting it on a intercontinental ballistic missile. That's not even what they could make a small suitcase bomb or something like that and give it to one of their proxies. You know, who knows what they can do with it. And that's very important what Obama's saying here. It's not only, talking about Iran developing a weapon and putting it on a missile and firing it somewhere. It's developing a weapon and giving it to one of their proxies to do something with it.
To non-state actors, that's unacceptable. And they have said that they want to see Israel wiped off the map. So the offers Iran a choice. They can take the diplomatic route and end their nuclear program.
Same thing Trump says. They can either take the diplomatic route. Now, granted, they did enter into an agreement with Obama, but, they were being very secretive under that agreement with Obama. There are conflicting views about if they were keeping up with the agreement under Obama, but Obama says take the diplomatic route. And to be fair, they did enter into an agreement with Obama, which Trump ended.
There's Iran a choice. They can take the diplomatic route and end their nuclear program, or they will have to face a united world and a United States president, me, who said we're not going to take any options off the table.
No options off the table. No options off the table is what Obama says. And when Obama says no options off the table, you better believe he means it. This guy ran on peace. He said he won a Nobel Peace Prize. Wow. This guy won a Nobel Peace Prize. I keep forgetting about that. Won a Nobel Peace Prize. He says no options off the table, Iran. You better know too. You better know that this Nobel Peace Prize winner, you better know he means business when he says no options are off the table. So Dennis Kucinich was only one of the few members in Congress that were objecting to Obama's military action without congressional authorization, particularly in Libya. This is a clip of Dennis Kucinich explaining he actually sued Obama over his action in Libya, and he explains a little bit in this interview about why he sued Obama. And Dennis Kucinich is absolutely right. Everything that he is saying about Obama in this interview and what they were saying about the War Powers Act, this has been a issue going back to Bush to 9/11, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. Let's listen to a little bit of Dennis Kucinich here.
Well, we'll start with you, Congressmember Kucinich. Why have you sued President Obama?
Because his actions taking the United States into war against Libya were in violation of Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, which makes it very clear, right from the foundation of this country, that Congress should have the power to declare war. And the president did not go to Congress for this action against Libya. We are attempting to correct an imbalance that has occurred not only during this administration, but over the years.
Not only that's important that that what he's doing, and he's working with another like 10 Republicans at this time to sue Obama. And he says that we're trying to correct an imbalance that has taken place over several administrations, where the war powers where the Congress has granted the executive more war powers. That the Constitution says that Congress has the power to declare war, just like he says. But Congress, particularly after 9/11 and the authorization of use of military force in 2001, and how that was used broadly by the Bush administration and the Obama administration, that Congress has ceded the authority that the Constitution gives them to declare war. And they've given that authority over to the executive branch. And that's why he says this isn't just about Obama. This is about multiple presidents who have started to misuse the war powers that Congress has given them.
This action against Libya, we are attempting to correct an imbalance that has occurred not only during this administration, but over the years, where executives have appropriated for themselves the war power without checking with Congress.
And it's not always that they appropriated it, Dennis. You guys gave it to them.
That has occurred not only during this administration, but over the years, where executives have appropriated for themselves the war power without checking with Congress. And, of course, in our lawsuit, we also address the War Powers Act, which the president is in violation of. And we also state that neither the approval of NATO nor the UN Security Council supersedes the Constitution of the United States. And finally, Amy, where's this money coming from? Who's paying for this? There's been no appropriation for Libya. We need to get some answers on that as well.
So he was demanding answers. Again, he was working with a bipartisan group of about 10 members of Congress. It didn't go anywhere, much like what Massey and Ro Khanna are trying to do right now. It's basically the same thing that Kucinich was doing with those Republicans when Obama invaded Libya. And it didn't go anywhere. This isn't going to go anywhere. But something needs to be done. Rachel Maddow wrote this book. I guess it's been like 10 years since she's wrote this book, Drift. And it's actually a really good book spelling out the drift. You can see the subtitle, The Unmooring of the American Military Power, the drift of the war powers authority from the legislative branch to the executive branch. And like Dennis Kucinich said in that interview, that this has been going on for a while. The drift that Rachel Maddow writes about in this book of the executive having more and more war power. And this really accelerated after 9/11. And again, I have a plan to do a podcast talking about 9/11 and the buildup to the war in Iraq. It's probably going to be pretty soon, but I have some other stuff that I want to try to get to before this. But after 9/11, just days after 9/11, the authorization for the use of military force, the AUMF 2001, gave the executive broad power to go after terrorists, go after Al Qaeda, all over the world, and it has been used by, or it was not only used by Bush to go all over the world and execute wars all over the world. When Obama came in after running on peace, he took this piece of legislation, and that's what he claimed gave him the authority, the congressional authority to drop bombs in Libya and all the other places where the long-legged Mac Daddy dropped bombs. He's using the exact same authorization of military force that Congress gave Bush in the days after 9/11 that Bush used. And this shouldn't surprise anyone. Obama's Secretary of Defense at this time, Bob Gates, was the CIA director under Bush's father. And Obama made him Bush had made him the head of the Pentagon, and Obama kept him on. So the fact that Obama was carrying on Bush's foreign policy, he had Hillary Clinton as his Secretary of State. He had Bob Gates as his Secretary of Defense. And it was the exact same foreign policy, even though he had run on peace and he had told the country that he was going to bring the wars to an end. He used this piece of legislation. Let's read a little bit of this. Joint resolution of the United States Congress, which became law on September 18th. This is a week after September 11th. Authorizing the use of United States armed forces against those responsible for September 11 attack. The authorization granted the president authority to use all necessary and appropriate force against those who he determined planned, authorized, committed, or aided the September 11 attacks, or who harbored said persons or groups. How does Libya fit into that, people? How does Libya fit into that? How does Yemen fit into that? But Obama used this. And the only people that said anything were people like Dennis Kucinich, very few in the Democratic Party. And they're all screaming. They were all in Congress. They were all in the Senate back then, but they're all screaming now because of the action that Trump took over the weekend. This was a speech that Dennis Kucinich gave on the congressional floor, criticizing Obama and his actions in Libya. Again, they ran him out of Congress shortly after this.
The code of behavior we are establishing sets a precedent for the potential of ever more violent conflicts in Syria, Iran, and the specter of the horrifying chaos of generalized war throughout the Middle East. Our continued occupation of Iraq and Afghanistan makes us more vulnerable not less vulnerable, to being engulfed in this generalized war.
So he's talking about the Obama administration, and he was the only one. He was one of the only ones. This is Hillary Clinton after they took out Gaddafi and went into Libya using the authorization of military force from 2001. Hillary Clinton, take a listen.
That is the land of unconfirmed.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
Did it have anything to do with your visit? No.
We came, we saw, he died. Laughing it up. We came, we saw, he died. Completely illegal what they did in going into Libya. And then that, branches to Benghazi, and then they get an ambassador killed, and you get a couple of our military men killed, a complete disaster because of what they did in Libya, and she's laughing it up. We came, we saw, he died. There's a little tune associated with that. We came, we saw, he died.
We came,
We saw, he died.
we came,
We saw, he died.
Look, we saw, he died.
So where was Ro Khanna when Obama was instituting a no-fly zone in Libya and allowing them to kill the leader there in Libya without congressional authorization? Where were these other Tim Kaine and all these other AOC? Where were you guys? Where were you guys? Where were you guys? So the media, again, all weekend, they were being completely hyperbolic, blowing this out of proportion. No one said, when we were, when under Obama, none of the media were like, are we at war with Libya now? Or when he was doing all these other targeted strikes, when he flew into Afghanistan to supposedly kill Osama bin Laden, if you believe that, did any of these say, are we at war with Pakistan now? Does this mean war? Are we getting ready to go to World War III because Obama flew into Pakistan without them knowing, took out somebody who they were harboring? If you believe that story? No, but they're completely hyperbolic all weekend. Oh, what is Iran going to do now? How are they going to retaliate? Oh my God, we got to worry about Iran. This is World War III. Are we at war with Iran now? And completely ridiculous and hyperbolic, but they asked it over and over again. All these talking heads on the Sunday shows yesterday, like Kristen Welker. Take a listen.
Thank you for being here on a monumental Sunday. My first question, Mr. Vice President, is the United States now at war with Iran?
Is the United States now at war with Iran? Kristen Welker. This is Hot Carl on This Week, ABC's This Week. Take a listen.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for joining us. The big question, is the United States now at war with Iran?
Are we at war with Iran? I can even play his answer because it's a ridiculous question. Of course, his answer is no. No, we're not at war with Iran. This is Hot Carl. I think this is where... Here, let's listen to what this clip is.
There's one thing the president has been really consistent about throughout his entire life in politics, and that is the idea of no more wars. Let me play you what he said on election night and, of course, at his inauguration.
Yeah, so this goes back to it. And this goes back to what I was saying about people on the left, because, they're gaining no traction right now. We talked about their problems in the last podcast. They can't even keep the lights on at the DNC. So, they're not making any traction with their messaging. So the best way for them to gain ground is to drive a wedge through MAGA and to split up Trump's MAGA movement. And there's no better way to do this than to use this issue of war and say that Trump campaigned and told you guys that he was going to be a peace candidate and that he was not going to start any new wars, and now he's starting new wars. So that's what this questioning is about with Kristen Welker. And if you go into this and watch this whole interview, she presses him on it just like Hot Carl does, and they do on the other stations as well. They're trying to frame this is that Trump sold you out. Trump told you that he was going to be a peace candidate and he's executing acts of war. He sold you out just like Obama did. See what I'm saying? So they're trying to drive the wedge. Just like Obama told you he was going to be a peace candidate and he ended up being a war candidate and executed all this war and kept, Bush's foreign policy going. Now you guys have been sold out again. Because again, a lot of these Trump voters came over from Obama. A lot of people voted for Trump, voted for Obama, and they voted for Obama for the same reason. They voted for Obama because Obama said he was the peace candidate and he was going to stop Bush's foreign policy, and he kept it going. And people were like, no, Obama. And then so they went with Trump because Trump said that he was the peace candidate. And now these people are saying, just like Obama sold you out and he said he was going to bring the peace and the change, he brought more wars. So Trump's doing that to you now. So that's what this question is about. Are we at war now with Iran? Which we're not. It's ridiculous. Are we at war now with Iran? Hot Carl? No, we're not. So that's what Hot Carl is getting to when he's pressing J.D. Vance on this, is that Trump made the promise. He said that he wasn't going to start any more war. Trump did not say he was never going to execute any acts of war. The guy's asking for increases in the Pentagon budget. He's not some peacenik, He just is going to use, war and use the military smart, not dumb like Bush and Obama, not destabilizing things like Bush and Obama. He's going to use it smart. He's gonna try to achieve peace, and if needed, he's going to execute some strength in the objective of achieving peace. That if you have to what do they say? What is it? Walk something and carry a big stick, or I forget what the saying is. But yes, you got to show that you're strong. You can't just be a pacifist, So Donald Trump didn't campaign and say he's never, ever going to use the military. He's asking for more money for the military. He's just going to use it smart. And that's what this is about. But again, these people are trying to drive a wedge through the MAGA movement. It's intentional and it's transparent.
This is not the end of this conflict, but the beginning of this conflict. U.S. response to Iranian retaliation. There's one thing the president has been really consistent about throughout his entire life in politics, and that is the idea of no more wars. Let me play you what he said on election night and, of course, at his inauguration.
I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into.
So let me ask you, what do you say to those, including some of the president's strongest supporters, who are really worried this morning that the United States is now involved in yet another protracted war, conflict, whatever you want to call it?
Well, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's not a war. It's not even a conflict. It's nothing, Hot Carl. So, your attempts are futile. But some people, who knows? Who knows if this is just propaganda that people are putting out? Who knows if who the owner of this hat is? But this is, or this could be a real person who supported Trump and voted for Trump and believed the propaganda that, he's starting new world wars and this is World War III. I'm going to take my Make America Great Again hat and burn it because I don't believe in making America great again because Trump bombed Iran. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how idiotic that is? But this is some of the propaganda that's out there. And again, I believe that a lot of people are eating it up, but a lot of this are people attempting to drive a wedge through MAGA. No, we're not at war with Iran. We're not at war with Iran at all. Iran struck our base in Qatar this morning with a bunch of rounds of artillery. No one was killed. It was the same thing when we killed Soleimani in Iraq. They attacked us back and fired some shells at one of our bases. No one was killed. No one was killed in the mission that we did in Iran blowing up their nuclear sites. No blood shed. No one was killed, but Trump's Bush. And Iran is not going to retaliate anymore. Iran doesn't, they can't, they're not even, come on, people. They don't want none. They don't want none. And it should surprise no one what Trump did over the weekend. This guy campaigned. This is 2016, 10 years ago. When he was campaigning, he didn't campaign saying that we would never execute any, targeted strikes or any military strikes. He never said that. He never said that going back to 2015, 2016. He said he wouldn't get us bogged down in any costly, forever wars like what happened in Iraq and what Bush did. This is him in 2016.
I will stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons, and we won't be using a man like Secretary Kerry that has absolutely no concept of negotiation, who's making a horrible and laughable deal, who's just being tapped along as they make weapons right now.
Just being tapped along as they make weapons. I will not let them make weapons. He said the same thing Obama said. All right, so this is some polling from CNN. I want you to take a look at this. Take a listen.
Yeah, look, I think it's a complicated picture overall, but on this particular question, and overall, I feel like there's more support for Donald Trump's positions than is comically acknowledged. Oppose Iran getting a nuclear weapon. Look at this. 79% of adults agree on that. They agree with Donald Trump. Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. 83% of Republicans, 79% of independents, 79% of Democrats. When you get 79% of Democrats and 83% of Republicans agreeing on anything, you know that position is the very clear majority in this country. And so the American public is with Donald Trump. They definitely oppose Iran getting nuclear weapons.
So this is a nuance here, but, Trump and Netanyahu both arguing that Iran is close to being capable of making a nuclear weapon. If that is the case, what is the feeling of Americans as to whether the United States should get involved in this conflict?
Right. If you buy Donald Trump's theory of the case, and I think that's important to note, this is polling from April. If Iran's trying to make a nuclear weapon, look at this. Overall, you get the slight plurality. It's within the margin of error, but the slight plurality of Americans actually favor U.S. airstrikes compared to 47% opposing it. Now, here's the other nugget I'll note, right? There's been a lot of talk online and on social media and in podcasts of a divide within the Republican ranks. But here on this question, if Iran's trying to make a nuclear weapon, look at that. 69% of Republicans, the clear vast majority of Republicans, favor U.S. airstrikes on Iran, on their nuclear facilities. But there is this substantial minority, 27%, who oppose such an idea. So it's not surprising you're hearing those other voices besides Donald Trump out there. There are plenty of them in the Republican ranks who oppose the U.S. striking Iran if they're trying to make a nuclear weapon. But
this goes back to the 69% who are of the Republican Party that agree if Iran's working towards nuclear weapons, that they agree with strikes. 27% that don't. That goes back to this. Goes back to the divergence of opinions, the wide divergence of opinions on the right. So that shouldn't surprise anyone.
The clear majority of Republicans are with Donald Trump. If, in fact, Iran is trying to make nuclear weapons, they do, in fact, potentially favor U.S. airstrikes.
Do Americans prefer a sort of military action here or a diplomatic solution when it comes to Iran?
Right. So, we're talking about
This is important. So she's asking, do Americans prefer a diplomatic solution or military action? Which do they prefer more?
Or a diplomatic solution when it comes to Iran?
Right. So, we're talking about you can favor one thing, but you could also favor another thing more. So, yes, the U.S. public plurality and the vast majority of Republicans would favor U.S. airstrikes if Iran's trying to make a nuclear weapon. But what do they prefer? To limit the risk of Iran making nuclear weapons, the American public prefers what? They prefer a negotiated agreement. 69%.
69% prefer a negotiated agreement. You know who else prefers a negotiated agreement? Donald Trump. Donald Trump prefers a negotiated agreement. This is his tweet after the mission to destroy their centrifuges, to destroy their reactors, to destroy their ability to enrich uranium. He says, now is the time for peace. Let's negotiate peace. He's been trying to negotiate a peaceful agreement and negotiate a peaceful settlement for months, going back to April. Iran says despite U.S. demands, it will never stop enriching uranium. Never. So yes, people would prefer a peaceful solution, a negotiated peaceful deal, but that's not always an option. And maybe Trump needed to take out their nuclear facilities to get them to come to the table to negotiate a peaceful agreement. And this idea that Trump is being, he's being puppet mastered by Netanyahu, and he's doing the bidding of Israel. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I don't necessarily know that Trump fully trusts Netanyahu. I don't fully trust Netanyahu. Everybody's been sharing this video of for 3 decades almost of Netanyahu repeating that Iran was on the verge of getting nuclear weapons. And take a look at this. You've probably already seen it.
Attaining this goal is getting extremely quick.
It's 1996.
Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that
2002
reach the eastern seaboard of the United States within 15 years. By next spring,
2012,
by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks.
So this one is interesting because he's at the United Nations there in 2012. 2 years before this is when Israel alone, by themselves, without the United States, started to attack Iran's nuclear program, assassinate their nuclear scientists. And this started in 2010 under the Obama administration. This didn't just come out of nowhere. And so they did this first mission in 2010, and then 2 years later is when Netanyahu is saying this at the United Nations. So Israel had already started attacking the nuclear program by trying to just assassinate the nuclear scientists. And before they were doing any airstrikes or any bombings like they just recently did, they were targeted airstrikes from Mossad agents, and they have many Mossad agents within Iran. They have more intelligence. Israel has more intelligence in Iran than anyone. So it says, than anyone outside of Iran. And let's read a little bit of this. Assassinations of Iranian nuclear scientists. Since 2010, multiple Iranian nuclear scientists have been killed in foreign-linked assassinations. Israel. 5 were killed from 2010 to 2020 in car bombings. These car bombings that they did, one of them, it was just like it's like Mission Impossible. These Mossad agents on motorcycles just riding up on the side of the cars, and then they have a magnet that they stick on the side of the car and when they're riding on the motorcycle that is an explosive. I think those are the ones that they did in 2010. But these are targeted strikes within Iran, assassination attempts on these nuclear scientists. So these were the missions that Israel was doing without the United States, and for 15 years, going back to 2010 is when this started. 5 were killed from 2010 to 2020 in car bombings and shootings. This guy, Abbasi, was among the scientists who survived the attempt in 2010 and assassination that killed another nuclear scientist. But then over a couple of weeks ago, when Israel was doing their airstrikes, this Abbasi scientist was finally killed. So Israel's been doing this by themselves and trying to take out their nuclear program and to prevent them from progressing in their nuclear development, going back 15 years, going back to 2010. So the point I'm making is saying that Netanyahu is coming year after year saying they're close. It's not like Israel hasn't been doing anything. Israel's been saying, Netanyahu's been saying they're close, and they have been working by themselves to prevent them from progressing in the enrichment of uranium. And then they did these strikes on over the weekend, over the past couple of weeks, and they'd gone as far as they could go in what they could do by themselves. So they needed the United States, they needed Trump, and Trump. That was the decision that he made over the weekend, was to assist them after the negotiations that he's been trying to have with them for months break down, and they tell him to screw off. Iran rejects talks. Trump, he gives them over the last 2 weeks, and they've been rejecting him for months now. Iran says, despite U.S. demands, never stop enriching uranium. And then Israel's been doing what they could do by trying to take out their nuclear scientists and these airstrikes themselves, but they couldn't get to this to their reactors and centrifuges at these 3 different bases. So Donald Trump decided, after the negotiations had broken down, Israel needed the assistance. He decided to assist them. Everyone's making the case that, well, Tulsi Gabbard's testified in March that they hadn't given the order to create a bomb, and they weren't close to a bomb, is what Tulsi Gabbard says. But Tulsi Gabbard said more in that testimony that a lot of people aren't reporting on. Maggie Haberman says in this interview. Take a listen.
Maggie, when you see Director Gabbard, I mean, she was quite clear in the testimony to Congress, but it was notable to see how dismissive, I guess is the best way to put it, President Trump was of that analysis from the intelligence community.
Yeah, and Caitlin, Gabbard pointed out that, if you read the fuller statement that
If you read the fuller statement, Gabbard not only said that they are not close to a weapon, they don't have a weapons program, she also said, Maggie.
Yeah, and Caitlin, Gabbard pointed out that, if you read the fuller statement that she gave, she did say that enrichment levels are at their highest for any non-nuclear state. And
that enrichment levels are higher than they need. They don't need 60% enrichment for peaceful protest, for peaceful purposes, is what Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, also said. She said that they weren't working towards a weapon and they weren't near a weapon, but they were enriching. They were enriching faster and more than they needed for peaceful purposes, is what the Director of National Intelligence says.
Yeah, and Caitlin, Gabbard pointed out that, if you read the fuller statement that she gave, she did say that enrichment levels are at their highest for any non-nuclear state.
Yeah, enrichment levels are higher for peace than they need for peaceful purposes. I want you to listen to Hot Carl here. He was on The View this morning. I want you to take a listen to what he says.
Look, that's what Tulsi Gabbard said in testimony in March, that Iran had not made the decision to restart their weapons program. Yes, they had stockpiled the fuel that they would need to power those nuclear weapons, but they had not made the decision to turn them into actual nuclear weapons. That had not changed. But keep in mind, the biggest hurdle is to get the fuel for the nuclear weapons.
That's the biggest hurdle, is to get the fuel. Once they're at 90%, turning on the weapons program, they can do that like that. We can get a weapon like that, like Obama said in the clip we played earlier. They can make a weapon, and they don't even need to put it on a ballistic missile. Give it to one of their proxies. The hard part of the nuclear program is enriching the uranium to 90% or more. Once they do that, getting a weapon, that ain't hard.
Turn them into actual nuclear weapons. That had not changed. But keep in mind, the biggest hurdle is to get the fuel for the nuclear weapons. And the belief was that could be something that they could do within a matter of weeks. Oh. By the way, I've been covering the Iran nuclear threat, I hate to say it, for literally 2 decades. Oh. And during much of that time, the sense is that Iran was months away from having a bomb.
Yeah, since 1995, Benjamin Netanyahu has said Iran is either 2 years away, 3 years away, 2 weeks away. I mean, he has been saying that for decades. What has changed? Nothing.
Well, look, nothing. What changed here is the opportunity and the belief that the Iranians were weak, that a strike could be effective. Look, 4 presidents
Listen,
covered all of them.
Listen to this. 4 presidents. Hot Carl, take a listen.
A strike could be affected.
4 presidents.
And I've covered all of them. Saw the Iran nuclear program as a severe threat. 4 presidents contemplated military action against it and held back.
Only one who did it was Taco. Taco's the only one who took action. 4 presidents have saw it as a threat. 4 presidents have said that Iran could not have a nuclear weapon and saw that their enrichment of uranium posed a threat of them getting a nuclear a weapon. 4 presidents contemplated taking military action. Taco's the only one who did. Taco's the only one who took military action.
Saw the Iran nuclear program as a severe threat. 4 presidents contemplated military action against it and held back. Donald Trump has done what they haven't done, but these plans have been in the works, have been drilled, have been examined, and they felt there was an opportunity. The Iranian air defenses have been taken out. The Iranian proxies in the region. The
time was now to go. Do you understand what he's saying? Even the planning and this mission was executed with precision. All of the training and the planning of this went on during the Biden administration. They've been planning for this for years. Our military has been planning for this mission. They didn't just plan for this mission flying all the way from Missouri across the planet, dropping ordnance on Iran. They didn't just plan this in a few. They've been planning this, training for this, going back to the Biden administration, and 3 other presidents have been planning this. And Taco's the one who did it. Taco. Man, I didn't get to everything. But I'll be back on Friday. Hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you on Friday.